Chapter 10. A Search for the Lost Girl. A few days later, an unwelcome visitor knocked at the Allens' front door. Penny answered the knock to find it was Mr. Spencer. Without invitation, he stepped inside, opening the screen door himself. Jimmy's comment on that was that he was certain Spencer had been a salesman of the sort that puts his foot in the door in order to get inside. "I am sure that you will let me look through this morning, will you not?" he asked ingratiatingly. Penny froze, as she could do on occasion, but Philip came forward courteously, with a questioning look on his face. "How can you think that your daughter can possibly be here?" he asked. "I gave you my word that we had found no trace, and certainly she is not here." "No, doggy, not now." Philip fastened the screen against the dog that was trying to nose its way in, as persistent as its master. "Down, Fritz," said Mr. Spencer. "But surely you do not mind his coming with me?" "My sister is afraid of dogs," said Philip. "I think he'd better stay outside. But since you are here, we may as well let you look through the place, though it would be better at another time." Philip was annoyed. Mr. Spencer knew it, certainly, Penny thought, but still he blandly persisted. As before, however, he did not have the appearance of a broken-hearted man. He showed great interest in the house, remarked that the woodwork and paneling were superior to that in the house he was staying in, and put his hand appraisingly on the balustrade as they mounted to the balcony. In every room as they went along, Mr. Spencer, with a half apology, opened the closet doors. Downstairs again, Mr. Spencer was interested in the study and was surprised to find it so small. "It was at this window that Fritz was sniffing so long. May I bring him in here?" "I see no reason, Mr. Spencer. You see what is here. Those cases are built in and perfectly solid, as you see. The wall is right behind the books and in plain sight. No closet, nothing of interest except the books. I do remember that the window here has been found open, and I have had to fasten the lock a little in order that it may not be shaken loose." Mr. Spencer nodded, not examining the lock, which was just as well, since the nail Philip had put in had dropped out. "I suppose it might be possible that your daughter either came in or tried to get in. Aunt Mary said that some campers must have broken in some night, but there was no damage done. I had not thought of that in connection with your daughter." "It may well be that she was at your window at least," said Mr. Spencer, apparently satisfied with his examination of the house. And Philip himself suggested going through the other buildings. The more he thought of it, the less he liked the idea that Mr. Spencer suspected them of anything. He would get through with him this time, or know the reason why, he told himself. But he grew more sociable as they went from the house to the cabin and boathouse, more in the spirit of a host who was showing a guest his possessions. Mr. Spencer, too, noticed the change. It was obvious from the change in himself. Instead of being the persistent investigator, he was the admiring beholder. "You certainly have a fine place here. I will tell my friend that he may well copy some of Mr. Allen's provisions here. Well, I thank you, and I see that my coming was unnecessary. However, you can imagine that I dare not leave without following up every possibility." "Yes, I see," said Philip. "I'm sorry that I hesitated. Come again." Yet as soon as Philip had given that invitation, he felt insincere. It was courteous, true, but he didn't want to know this man. There was something about him that was unpleasant. "What did you tell him that I was afraid of dogs for?" asked Marjorie, who had not followed the men outside, but had waited for Philip's return on the back porch. "I had to say something, didn't I?" "Anyhow, I'm glad you didn't let him have his old dog inside," said Marjorie with a grin. "The Allen family," said Jimmy, "is growing in importance hourly. Did you show Mr. Spencer that mesh bag, Philip?" "I never thought of it, but I'm not sure that I would have mentioned it if I had. What do you think about it, Penny? If he is a disconsolate father, as I suppose he must be, would he like to have the chance to look at that? I felt sorry for him, and honestly, I didn't think about the message of those written pages. But if that lost girl did write it, and wasn't out of her mind, why, I don't know. Waiting doesn't hurt, only if we show it to him now, it may look as if we had been keeping something back on purpose. Not to change the subject, but look, Jimmy, see what I found. Your missing book. Anne Mary must have found it when she was here cleaning yesterday." Jimmy took the book from her. "Gosh, I wonder where it was. I'll have to remember to ask her the next time she's here." After dinner the following Sunday, the Allens were surprised and pleased by the unexpected return of Pat Ryan. All of them, of course, were delighted to see Pat back and in charge, for that, really, they expected. Pat was a part of the atmosphere of the place. He alone could tell them many things they wanted to know. They, too, had some things to tell him. "Go on and talk to Pat," Penny said to the boys. "I know you were to help clean up because Marjorie and I cooked most of the dinner, but we didn't expect Pat." The boys did not have to be urged, for they were full of questions to ask Pat. At first, the obvious matters about car, boat, house, cabin, and their debt to Patrick Ryan were the subjects discussed. The boys asked about details which had occurred to them in managing the electricity and the water system and in looking through the woods. Mr. Allen had religiously kept all that he could of the virgin forest, cutting out irregular growth for such fuel as he wanted. The expense necessary to keep up the estate was of concern to Philip, who said as much to Pat. As Anne Mary had told them, Pat had little extra charge to make for his services. He laughingly told the boys that he might still have something to pay them for the use of their ground for his garden. "I thought that it was best for me to stay around as much as I could," said Pat. "So I used the cabin about as much as when Mr. Allen was here. I had my own fishing boat at the dock nights, and I put up a no trespassing private ground sign there and other places about the woods and at the front. I don't know how much good they do when snoopers want to come." "That makes me think, Pat. We found cigarettes all around the house this morning," said Jimmy. Philip, in that connection, told about their visit from Mr. Spencer. Pat looked a little sober, nodding his head as if he were not surprised. "That's a queer outfit down there," said he. "I don't know what to make of them. It isn't the first time that they've been around. I've wondered whether they had any illegal business, but I've no real cause to think that. I didn't pay much attention to all the gossip, that he had a crazy daughter or a sick girl, till he started a big search and said she had run away. There was some excitement. Boats were out all over the lake. The woods for miles around were searched, and Spencer had the nerve to ask me to let him look through the lodge and the cabin, too. I felt like knocking him down. I told him that I was living in the cabin and that no female was hiding away there. Moreover, no one was going through the lodge in the absence of the owners. I was lighting my pipe, coming out of the cabin the first thing in the morning, and intending to go fishing in a few minutes. But I stayed around till Anne Mary and Teresa came to clean that day. I told him, 'I'm not without feelings for a man that has lost his daughter, I can promise you this. If I find any clue at all, I'll not take it lightly and do all I can to find the girl. But I'm responsible to the owners for this estate. And after you have made one satisfactory search through our neck of the woods, tell your men to stay off of it. And I mean it.' Did you have any snooping after that?" "I don't know what they did when I wasn't here, but there was no harm done. Just once I heard someone slipping around the cabin after I had unlocked it. I thought the fellow had gone behind that big pine, the other side of the cabin. So I went out with my gun and took a shot. Aiming in the air, you understand. Believe me, there was a scrambling in the brush heap." Pat threw back his head and laughed at the memory. But whoever was there got away without making any more noise. I heard a few sticks snap toward our neighbor's clearing after a little when I slipped down that way. But I was not trying to catch anybody, only to scare them off. Maybe it's just as well that you did take the fellow through, Pat concluded. He'll be satisfied she isn't there. End of chapter 10.